All right, what's going on, guys? I finally get my debut training out. This is for local lead gen agency owners, taking you guys from, struggling to succeeding. The main topic or the main thing I'm really going to be speaking about today is the frameworks that the 1% of agency owners, continually use to work less, charge 3 to 5x more, and simply live a life of ultimate leverage. I see time and time again, especially in the industry, in the market that we're currently in, if you're a local lead gen agency owner, instead of adding value to your service and becoming the 1%, you guys are essentially fighting and running your agency to the ground. You would have probably seen some of these ridiculous offers or guarantees that you now have to, present and bring to the market. But what's that actually doing for you guys? You're making less money, you're working harder, and it just doesn't make sense. I've even saw a guarantee one time that was like, we'll pay you $500 for wasting your time. Like, how has it got to the point where we're now offering money out of our own pockets just to sign a client for 1.5K, 1K, and then that turn out to be one of the worst clients that you guys could have ever signed in the first place? It just simply doesn't make sense. So what I want to basically do for you guys is present to you the Blitz offer framework, understanding how to work less, charge more, and simply add at least 30K a month in monthly recurring revenue. And the thing is, you probably think, oh God, I'm gonna sit through a 40-minute training just to add 30K a month. But what you guys need to understand is I've lowballed this to a degree that just doesn't even make sense, because I understand if 100 people sit down and watch this training, only 1% of people will actually take action. And if you take action and apply half of what I'm saying, that will be the result. If you apply everything that I'm speaking about, that is how you get to the 1% making the 100K a month, the 200K a month, the 600K a month. We look at the big guys, the Serge Gataris, the Jordan Plattons, the Montel Gordon. The reason why they're relentlessly and routinely making multiple six figures a month is because of the frameworks that we're going to be speaking about in today's training. So don't think, 30K a month is the maximum you can make from this. Add another zero to that. That's how much you guys should be doing after this training. It just doesn't make sense that you guys are still operating, a part of the 99% of local lead gen agency owners, when once you change or apply this one framework, the game will change forever. So yes, how to be a part of the 1% of local biz agency owners working less, charging 3 to 5 times more by implementing the Blitz offer framework to add at least 30K a month in recurring revenue. So let's jump straight into it. So the biggest key here is to understand the frameworks that will take you from being a part of the 99% of lead gen agency owners and make you a part of the 1% club. I like to split these types of training into two sort of phases. The first phase is the education phase, understanding the integral difference between the 99% of lead gen agency owners and the hyper successful 1%. How is it that most of the market is relentlessly changing or chasing clients, should I say, and the 1% of agency owners have clients chasing them? There must be something different about how they structure their agency and how you guys are structuring your agency. But I don't want to just give you the framework, or not even give you, but educate you guys on the framework without giving you the practical steps on how to implement it within your agency. So that's when it comes to the implementation phase, understanding how the Blitz offer framework will position your agency as part of the 1% that works less, charges more, and simply has infinite leverage when it comes to signing clients, essentially running an agency the Blitz way. So what you guys need to understand, you're probably at the 5, 10, 15, 20K per month sort of mark right now, but you've got there by offering a singular commoditized service, which we'll talk about a little bit more later on. But that's essentially lead generation, booked appointments. You're only bridging a small percentage of the gap. What we want to do is basically educate you guys on the Blitz offer framework on how you can bridge the entire gap. And that is how you have the leverage. That is how you charge more. That is how you work less, because now clients will not see you as a singular commodity, but they will see you as the all-in-one solution, from taking them from where they currently are to where they desire to be. And I'm going to show you guys how you can start charging 5, 10, 15K up front and routinely sign clients and have clients chase you. Let's get into the nitty gritty. Get your pens, your pencils, your pads, your water bottles, whatever you guys need for the next 30 to 45 minutes, and just basically lock in. All right. So why staying a part of the 99 will keep you overworked, underpaid, and inevitably cost you your agency. So the two sort of topics that we're going to be talking about is the accumulated skills to competition relationship. the state of the current market as it stands today, as well as how modern day athletes have implemented this framework to go on to earn hundreds of millions of dollars every single year. At the end of each section, you'll understand why you will need to position yourself as a one percenter and the detrimental repercussions of staying a part of the 99%. So this is currently the cycle that's killing your agency, guys. So the current mastery flywheel for 99% of agencies looks like this. You guys are offering a singular commoditized skill, which is booked appointments, leads, Facebook ads, website optimization. It doesn't matter. It's a singular commoditized skill, and you're only providing one valuable solution. So leads brings in more leads. Booked appointments brings in more booked appointments. It's one valuable solution, which means that there's a capped pricing potential. If you guys remember that first graph that I showed you at the start of this training about bridging the entire gap, that is what I'm referring to, which means that since you're going to be charging a low service fee, the partnership potential is minimal. No one's going to want to work with you. You guys have probably realized how hard it is now to get a media buyer and leverage their case studies, because they understand that 95% of the market is not signing consistent clients and they just want to use their case studies. So now people have watermarked it or simply said no. So which means that your leverage to accumulate new skills is simply minimal. You're not charging enough. You can't get decent media buyers. No one's going to want to work with you. So you have no leverage in the market. How are you going to continually sign clients if you can't get case studies, if you can't get incredible talent? And all that simply means is you're forced to offer the same service just to get by. You guys are signing clients for 1K, 1.5K. It's costing you an arm and a leg, and then you still have to do ridiculous amounts of work, and they end up leaving after 2-3 months anyway. Most agencies are offering a singular commoditized skill such as booked appointments, and the lucky ones somehow get to charge 3K a month for your service, if you're lucky. But for most cases, you're charging 1.5K to 2K a month. So it's all celebrations because your overhead is low and you're outsourcing the work, or so you thought. And then you start realizing, damn, I actually need to produce the service. So when you factor in the media buyers, the softwares, the CRMs, and time, and it's all said and done, you're left with some lint and a couple of loose change because all your money has already been spent. Now you find yourself being overworked, overwhelmed, and underpaid, producing a service for really only a couple of $100s a month. It just doesn't make sense. And all that simply produces one of three things, right? You either continue paying for all of the overhead and you complete your obligations to the client, practically making no money. The client churns because you simply cannot afford to either have the talent to deliver results or afford the resources to. Or number three, you do this. The cycle repeats. They chase after every single client, you sign them, and then you realize you have a whole new set of problems. It is a forever cycle of selling a singular commoditized skill, realizing the profits isn't life-changing, so you keep on having to chase your tail and hope something changes. And the truth of the matter is, if you guys have been in this space or had a little bit of skin in the game, you would realize that it never actually changes. For these next couple of sections, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, guys, so you guys can really get to works with what it is that we're going to be speaking about. And that's only the beginning of the problems, because you're not the only person in this cycle. 99% of agencies are. So what do you think happens when a new wave of agency owners decide to target local businesses? They also start offering lead generation and booked appointments. And that requires practically zero effort to accumulate this skill, since it's predominantly outsourced. What people need to understand when it comes to running local lead gen agencies, the barrier to entry is very, very minimal. Which means that I can get up today and say, look, I'm starting a local lead gen agency. What do I need? I need to pick a niche. I need to find a media buyer that can deliver results in that niche. And then I can start doing outreach. When a new wave of agency owners come into the local lead gen space, you're now fighting every single other agency offering the same service with the same infrastructure. Because guys, if that's my thought process, that is the thought process of every single other individual getting into this space. Because look, if the barrier to entry is literally nothing, why wouldn't you offer the same service as majority of the market and charge clients a couple $1,000s? It's easy, right? The result of this is an increase in competition. You are forced to differentiate yourself in order to keep competing. Exactly the same, just packaged differently. And that's what I'm not even trying to be funny with this. I'm so passionate about it, but this is what the majority of the market looks like. Imagine these guys with 100,000 different other wigs, all exactly the same, just packaged differently. Just because you have a different guarantee doesn't mean that you're different from the next agency to your left. Just because you're offering a higher amount of leads doesn't mean you're any different from the agency to your right. Infrastructurally, you guys are all built the same. And it's all down to this guy, Alex Hormozi. He didn't teach people how to create offers. He taught people with no skill how to compete. I will say that again. Alex Hormozi, he did not teach people how to create offers. He taught people with no skill how to compete. Ridiculous offers and ridiculous guarantees. That's what he taught people how to create. The reason I can confidently say that this space is not saturated is because 99% of lead gen agency owners would rather increase the ridiculousness of the guarantee as a means to increase the perceived value of their skill than to implement the effort in order to increase their accumulation of skills. I've said a lot and I will say it again. People in the agency space, the local lead gen space specifically, would rather increase the ridiculousness of their guarantee. We'll pay you $500 if you waste your time. We'll buy lunch for the team if we waste your time. As a means to increase the perceived value. Oh, that's quite valuable since they're going to be paying me $500. Rather than to implement the effort in order to increase the accumulation of skills. What does that last bit mean? You know how I spoke about bridging the entire gap? This is what I'm talking about. People would rather increase the ridiculousness of their offer instead of bridging the entire gap, accumulating more skills to be the all-in-one solution for their target audience. The key thing here, guys, is to understand what skill actually means. Skill refers to the quantifiable metric of value provided to your clients. So before I even speak about the other aspects on this page currently, let me explain that. The skill of generating leads, that produces a quantifiable number of leads. The skill of generating booked appointments, that produces a quantifiable number of appointments. Think about it like this. Over the course of 30 days, if I said to a business, I'm going to be generating you leads, at the end of those 30 days, you can identify the amount of leads that I generated. Same for booked appointments. You can quantifiably identify how many booked appointments I generated. The same for running Facebook ads. It produces a particular set of KPIs. Optimizing a website, if you had that skill, that achieves a desired click-through rate, for example, or a conversion rate percentage. So skill refers to the quantifiable metric of value provided to your clients. To possess a skill does not mean that you have to be the one to master it, which we will talk about a little bit later on. And in turn, skills add value to an asset. The more skills you have, the more perceived value that asset can actually provide. Right? So when we look at it from a graph perspective, guys, the rate of skills that you guys accumulate is directly proportionate to the type or the level of competition that you face in your market. The more skills that you have, the less competition that you face. That is why the 1% are at the degree that they're at. They have no competition. There's no cap on how much they can charge, because they are simply in a league of their own. And this is what I was speaking about at the start of this training. When you accumulate so many skills to the point where you're bridging the entire gap, the rest of the market can't compete with that, guys. So the problem that most lead gen agency owners have is that they don't ever accumulate more skills beyond booking more appointments. That means that you guys are in this section right here, competing with 90% of the market. And why is this so bad? Well, if you're not accumulating more skills to decrease the level of competition, how else can you stand out with the level of competition that you guys are facing? And it's by doing ridiculous stuff like this. So it starts off with the money back guarantee from lead gen agency owner number 1. Then lead gen agency owner number 2 hears that and thinks, you know what, let's top that. We'll work for free until you see results. Then lead gen agency owner number 3 thinks, those two are decent guarantees, but let me go one up. We'll offer you $100 if you waste your time. Now you literally have people going out of pocket to stand out from the competition. And if that isn't bad enough, you have the crackheads of the industry that will say stuff like, we'll work for free, and then if you don't get results, we'll pay $500. Like, how has it got to the point where individuals would rather run their agency to the ground to separate themselves from the competition instead of adding accumulated skills or adding value to their asset, which is their agency or business? It just doesn't make sense. And this is a visual representation of what that looks like. The 1% would rather increase their accumulated skills, and that means that you can infinitely go up in how much that you can charge. There is no cap on the amount of skills that you guys can accumulate. The more skills you accumulate is directly proportionate to the amount of value that you provide. The amount of value that you provide is directly related to the amount of money that you can charge for your service. Whereas on the flip side, with 99% of agency owners, they would rather decrease their price to stand out from competition. But the problem is the lowest that you can go is 0. So how then do you start separating yourself from competition if everyone's offering a free service and a ridiculous guarantee? You're running your agency to the ground. The bigger the discrepancy, the better and the easier it is to sell. The reason why the 1% have clients chasing them is because they've separated themselves from 99% of the market to the point where potential clients see that and they are prepared to hand over their credit card. They're prepared to pay the 5, 10K per month price tag that comes with it. Your customers need to be buying tremendous amount of value at a discount. Accumulated skills, guys. So if you're a part of the 99% of agency owners I'm talking about here, then it's only a matter of time before one, you go broke, if not already. Number two, your agency self-destructs. Or number three, both. Because competing outside of not accumulating more skills isn't sustainable. Said differently, competing outside of not having or providing more value isn't sustainable. Decreasing your price will only get you so far. The lowest that you can go is zero. So what do you do after you are offering a free trial or a free service? That's the point I'm trying to make, guys. You guys will probably experienced it as well. Free trials don't work like they used to 2 years ago. Why? Because everyone's offering a free trial. So now everyone's basically charging nothing for their service. They've got a ridiculous guarantee. So how are you going to make money? It just doesn't make sense, guys. It just doesn't make sense. Generating leads and booked appointments will open doors, but it's the accumulation of skills that will keep them open. This is the flywheel for not accumulating more skills. You charge a low price, you attract broke people who can afford low prices. That means you're making less revenue, you'll have no money left for marketing or fulfillment, and then you get bad results for your clients, and you end up being broke as well. That is the flywheel that you guys watching this training have probably already experienced as well. Low price, broke people, bad results, repeat the cycle. At what point are you guys going to understand the only way that you can differentiate yourself, like we just identified, is by accumulating more skills? Said differently, the best way to differentiate yourself from the market is by bridging the entire gap. So hopefully you guys actually understand what it is that I'm trying to speak about. The best way to compete is by accumulating more skills to increase your perceived value. That makes you able to charge more. Whereas if you don't accumulate more skills and you guys are competing by lowering your price, the lowest you can go is zero. It just doesn't make sense, guys. So how is it that modern day athletes have implemented this accumulation of skills phenomenon to go on to earn hundreds of millions of dollars per year? Well, let's look at it from this perspective. So let's start with Cristiano Ronaldo. He had a singular commoditized skill. I'll tell you what, let's zoom in a little bit so you guys can really get to grips with what it is that I'm trying to explain to you guys. So he had a singular commoditized skill, which was his ability to play football. He accumulated more skills, whether that's his free kick ability, his passing, his dribbling, his speed, his jumping height. All these accumulated skills increased his perceived value. That got him the contract at Manchester United. Now, once he's at that space, he has state-of-the-art facilities, ridiculous trainers and coaches. Now he's accumulating more skills. His perceived value increases to the point where he's paid and earning upwards of hundreds and hundreds of millions every single year. How was that possible? It's because he put in the years to increase and accumulate more skills. We look at someone like Floyd Mayweather, for example, the exact same thing. He had a singular commoditized skill, which was his ability to box. He then accumulated more skills. If you know boxing, he is the godfather, should we say, of this defensive type boxing, this counter punching. And those were the skills he accumulated. Faster hands, better cardio, defensive boxing, state-of-the-art counter punching boxing. That put him in a position to earn money, to have state-of-the-art trainers, nutritionists, environments, boxing coaches, all these different things, to the point where his perceived value increased so much that he was 50-0, and now his infinite leverage means that he's earning hundreds of millions of dollars per fight. Years and years of accumulating skills increases your perceived value, meaning that you have the leverage to charge and earn more. And then let's look at these two guys. They started with a singular commoditized skill. Something happened. Their perceived value increased to the point where their leverage was worth $100 billion. How is that possible? How is it possible that they accumulated enough skills to skyrocket their perceived value and made billions without ever having to physically expend the energy to accumulate the sheer number of skills that it would require to pull something like that off? These two athletes, Ronaldo, Mayweather, these athletes put in blood, sweat, time and energy accumulating more skills, yet they made 10x less. How is that possible? The answer is very, very simple. It comes down to one word, which is leverage. Leverage, leverage, leverage. Their goal was never to spend decades accumulating skills to make themselves the valuable asset. It's that simple. When you look at individuals like Ronaldo or Mayweather, they spent years accumulating skills which increased their perceived value because they were the asset. That's what made them hundreds of millions of dollars. That is the key here. But the difference is when you look at the formula for increasing value for 99% of agency owners, they spend their own time, their own energy accumulating skills. Whereas the 1%, to get accumulated skills, they leverage someone else's time and someone else's energy. Their goal was to leverage other people's skills and to make their product the valuable asset, not become the valuable asset. All right, if this is still not making sense to you guys, just bear with me for another moment. Let's look at Ronaldo. He spent his own time and energy over the span of 3.5 decades acquiring skills. Now he has a net worth of $1 billion. Now we look at someone like Mayweather, who did the exact same. Over the span of 3.5 decades, he spent his own time, his own energy, accumulating skills, increasing his perceived value to have a net worth of above $1 billion. Now these two individuals, they leveraged the time and energy from 228,000 people in the span of 1.5 decades. They made $100 billion. That is the difference between 99% of lead gen agency owners and the 1%. 99% would rather spend their own time and energy, whereas the 1% would rather spend someone else's time and energy that already has the skill. So let's make it make sense. That is how you become the 1%. What skills did they acquire with all of that time and energy from 228,000 individuals? Well, first of all, the skill of knowing how to drive meant that they can increase their perceived value by creating products like UberX and Uber Eats. Knowing how to drive, that skill plus having a bigger car meant that they can increase their perceived value to bigger groups that's going out, whether that's to brunch, for a night out. They can create the product UberXL. Knowing how to drive, that skill plus having a nice car, that skill meant that they can create the product Uber Deluxe, increasing their perceived value. Knowing how to fly plus having a helicopter meant that they can create the product Uber Copter, increasing their perceived value. The valuable asset that we're talking about here, guys, is Uber. They don't own any cars, and it's not just them that leverage the skills of other people in order to make their product a valuable asset. Uber is the world's largest taxi company that owns no vehicles. Facebook is the world's most popular media owner that creates no content. Alibaba is the most valuable retailer that has no inventory. Airbnb is the world's largest accommodation provider that owns no real estate. Instead of spending decades accumulating these skills to increase their perceived value, they leveraged the talent of individuals that already had them. That is the goal, guys. When I'm telling you these things, I'm not telling you these things to go out and accumulate these skills and learn these skills yourself. The key to becoming a part of the 1% is to leverage the skills of other people that already have them so you don't have to spend the time and energy. What would have taken someone a lifetime to achieve, Uber did in a matter of years. How? Leverage. So guys, what does that all mean? Being a part of the 1%, like I said, isn't about spending the time accumulating these skills yourself and making you the valuable asset. It's about finding the talent that already spent time and energy learning and leveraging it, making your agency the valuable asset. So hopefully you guys are finally starting to understand what it is that I'm talking about. The goal is never to make you the valuable asset. It's to build an agency and make that the valuable asset by leveraging other people's skills, their time and energy. Let's look at the flywheel that we looked at earlier, guys. The flywheel of not acquiring more skills is this. Low price, you attract broke people who could only afford low prices. That means less revenue for you, no money left for marketing or fulfillment. That means you're generating bad results for your client and you look broke too. And that is a consistent cycle that most agencies are stuck in. Whereas when you leverage more skills, guys, you have infinite skills, the ability to solve more problems and increase perceived value, meaning you're able to charge more revenue and better backend and money left over for marketing and for living life. Essentially, that creates better results for your customers and you also look like you're winning. That is the key. That's the difference between 99% of agency owners and the 1%. If someone in their target audience has a problem or they've not bridged the entire gap. What the 1% do, they don't go out and spend their time and energy accumulating the skill to go and fix that problem. They find someone who already has the skill and leverage it. And as I'll continue to say, guys, skill refers to the quantifiable metric of value provided to your clients. I never said the value that you as an individual provides to your clients. It's the value that the asset, which is your agency, provides to your clients. So that means you don't have to be the one to go spend your time and energy accumulating skills. Find individuals that have it and leverage their time and energy. So the all important question is, how does this apply to my lead gen agency, and how can I increase my skill set to charge more, work less, and increase your perceived value? So if you remember at the start of the training, guys, I said we're going to be splitting this into two sections. The first section is the education phase, where I gave you guys the fundamental understanding of how the 1% sort of structure their agency. They don't go out and spend their time and energy accumulating skills, they leverage it. And now we're going to be talking about how the Blitz offer framework will position your agency as part of the 1% that works less, charges more, and simply has infinite leverage when it comes to signing clients. So this is the old way that 99% of agency owners used to do things. They used to sign a client. In the first 30 days, the client would pay 1.5K, for example. Then it's an extensive lead to sale process. There's no closing appointments, no clarity on the CRM. These are the things that the client's going through in the back end. So yes, you guys are generating leads, but you don't understand what's happening on the back end. So that's month one. Then month two, they have to pay another 1.5K. And once again, it's an extensive lead to sale process. They're not closing the appointments. There's no clarity on the CRM. And month two, the contract ends. That's how it usually goes. The client results, let's speak about those, right? So they simply churn after 2 to 3 months because they still have the original problem but more headaches. 100 other agencies simply offering the same service at a discounted price, so they feel obligated to go elsewhere. They were selling bad offers and services and pitching niches that were super competitive, and the market had become numb to the messaging around the offer. They simply had no sales asset online to warm and educate the prospects before sales calls. They couldn't close deals, and they have the opportunity to leave whenever you want, and there is no security. You can have a killer month and generate them tens of thousands of dollars, and they can just get up and end the contract. You're a disposable commodity if you still run your agency like this. And that's the honest truth, guys. Generating leads or booked appointments doesn't solve the problem. It opens the door to new ones. People don't realize this. Once you start bringing in appointments, this is what happens at the back end. They realize that the quality of their leads are bad. They realize their offer isn't converting. They realize that they can't close any of the deals. They haven't got a systemized way of tracking clients in the pipeline. There's no means of engaging old clients for referrals, and the list goes on. This presents an opportunity for you to be a part of the 1%. By bridging the entire gap from where the client currently is and where they desire to be. So let me break this down. Let me zoom in a little bit more so you guys can really get to grips with what I'm talking about. So 99% of agency owners, they have a low pricing power because they only offer leads, booked appointments, and maybe a CRM. The 1% of agency owners would look at it like this. Okay, so they need leads and books appointments. They need a CRM. I can come on and be a growth consultant, meaning that you're telling them about their offer, how to change it, how to position it, what the current market's doing, what the competitors are doing. You can provide them with GHL snapshots that can do stuff like Google reviews after someone signs on as a client, maybe stuff like referral scheme snapshot. All these different things is what you guys can start implementing. And now it becomes an automated entire process, which in turns makes it very, very simple for someone to turn into a lead and then convert as a sale. And that is how you get individuals to the desired situation. And that gives you high pricing power because instead of bridging 30% of the gap, you are the solution to every single one of these problems that we just spoke about. You go from bridging 20% of the gap to bridging 100% of it. What do you think that does for your perceived value? It skyrockets it, guys. You look like those two founders from Uber. The perceived value goes through the roof. The key about the Blitz offer framework is not to charge a monthly retainer, it is to build the mechanism for the client in the shortest amount of time and release it into their business. So as you can see, before I even show you this, let's go back to this. Let's remember this for a second. Client, 30 days, 1.5K. These are the problems that they're facing. Month one, 1.5K, 30 days. These are the problems that they're facing. The client ends the contract. The goal isn't to do a monthly retainer. The goal is to go in, build the client's infrastructure, solving all their problems up front. That is how you charge 5, 10, 15K. Mind blowing, I know. So you take a client, they pay you 5K. Now you have the 5K. That means you have the leverage to build the infrastructure to get them to their desired situation. And it's that simple, guys, because what people don't understand is what would take most agencies 3 months to do and solve one problem, you are going to be doing in a matter of weeks to solve all the problems. Welcome to the build and release framework. So how is it that I went from charging 1.5K to 7K? Well, it's simple because people buy results, not the process. People want the results now. So I had to sell my offer with a defined N because that allows you to 2x to 5x your price because your prospect is the most excited and willing to spend to experience the outcome. If you're going to be using the build and release framework, your program, your mentorship, whatever it is, needs to have a definitive end because then the clients will anticipate what their life would look like after the 3 month mark, the 6 month mark, etc. And this was the impact of the build and release for my clients that I worked with, the local lead gen guys, right? They paid the invoice. Within 48 hours, I optimized and created a proven offer for them. In 7 to 10 days, they had GHL resources shared. So the snapshots, team of VAs, etc. They also had access to a team of trained setters taking care of generating attention, leads, and appointments. I bridged the entire gap for them to fulfill for their clients. It's that simple. Now, within the first 15 to 30 days, they were closing their first few deals. All they had to do was to pay an invoice, allow me and my team to build a 30K a month minimum infrastructure, and they just focused on closing deals because they knew that they bridged the entire gap for their clients with everything that I did for them within the first 14 days. Even though it was a 4 month process, the infrastructure, the value, and the results had to be delivered within the first 2 to 4 weeks. You want to build as much value up front, give to these individuals, and then the back end, you can reap the rewards because they have accumulated so many skills to the point where they can fulfill for their clients. So it's all good telling you guys these things, but this is the impact of a build and release offer, of accumulating and leveraging other people's skills. Premium pricing, because only 1% of people are ballsy enough to replicate it, hence the 1%ers, which meant that you had insane levels of profits and you could afford to remove yourself from the most important areas of your business. You don't need to sell, you don't need to onboard, you don't need to consult, you don't need to build systems. Why? Because you can leverage the time and energy of someone else that already has those skills, so you can remove yourself from the process. Why? Because you're charging more money means that you can have more leverage and afford better talent. All leverage means is the financial ability to afford and utilize for your own personal gain. Only 1% of people are ballsy enough to replicate it, hence the 1%ers, and you stop becoming or being a commodity. You are a part of the 1% of individuals that have clients chasing them as opposed to you chasing the clients. And it meant that you can hire superstar talent. And the benefit of being able to leverage superstar talent is very, very simple. You get better client results, more case studies, higher closing rate, and simply more leverage. The current mastery flywheel for 1% of agencies is this. They have a build and release offer. They've leveraged all the necessary skills to bridge the gap for their target audience. They're providing all the solutions, unlimited pricing potential, 5, 10, 15K a month up front, which means that they have infinite leverage to accumulate new skills from superstar talent. So let me paint the picture before I finish off this mastery flywheel, guys. Imagine that you've, leveraged enough skills, provided the solutions, and now you're charging 5K a month. What does that do? Well, that achieves the best results for clients, case studies to leverage for more attention, and you're becoming a 1%er. It's that simple. The more necessary skills that you leverage, the more that you can charge, and the more that you can charge is directly related to the amount of talent or the level of talent that you can acquire for your asset, which is your agency. So let's say you start off charging 5K a month. That's fine. When you acquire better talent, you could charge 10K a month, which means you get access to a new level of superstar talent, which means better results, better case studies, and all these things start compounding. This is why the build and release offer is a compounding offer that allows you to always infinitely scale up. If you guys remember that first diagram we spoke about, when you're accumulating skills, there's no cap on how much you can charge. But if you're competing by reducing your price, you're going to run your agency to the ground. And this is the flywheel that explains that. Like I said to you guys at the beginning of this training, I don't want to just educate you. I want to give you the practical implementation steps into doing this for your own agency, right? So how is it that you can create a build and release offer? Basically running the agency the right way, the blitz way. So we're going to be talking about the framework for identifying the skills that you need to leverage in order to increase your perceived value to local businesses, how you should be packaging these skills in order to forex your current price, how to price your new offer, and a plan of action. So look, guys, before you complain about the problems that your target audience faces, leverage skills and ensure that you solve them. You do not want to make the mistake of leveraging skills that solve non-existent problems. Every skill that you leverage should be the solution to your ideal client's problems. And the way that you do that is by using the mechanisms needed to avoid failure graph. I have a template here, so I think you guys either book a call or send me a DM somewhere, or even finish watching to the end of this video. I think you guys will get it as a gift in the emails. If you don't get the gift, send me a DM and then we could do it that way as well. But essentially what you want to do is you want to think about all of the client failure scenarios that could possibly go wrong when working with local businesses. So for example, not generating enough leads, a consistent flow of low quality leads that do not book appointments or pay, no CRM in place. And then you need to have a mechanism to solve that to avoid failure. And that way, you know that you're not just leveraging skills that don't matter to your target audience. You're leveraging skills that solve a problem that they face. So for example, not generating enough leads, you're going to be utilizing paid ads in order to find leads and customers. That's a given. Consistent flow of low quality leads that do not book appointments or pay. You take over the qualifying nurturing process entirely using Go High Level. You have a lead form, the nurturing phase, and you turn those guys into booked appointments. Unable to close booked appointments because they do not take the time to call once they're generated. Place a VA closer on the end of their infrastructure to take the calls. All they will need to do is to send quotes once they're fully qualified. No CRM in place. Utilize Go High Level pipeline features so clients will have access to and see it. So you can see how you want to think of every failure scenario that your client can go through on the back end, and then you want to create a mechanism to solve it. You want to identify if it's going to be done for you and if it's either completed in the process of being built. And that is how you know what skills you need to leverage, guys. You need to highlight the problems that your niche faces, identify the skills and solutions you need to leverage in order to solve those problems. And now what you have is an accumulated set of skills, all leveraged, solving solutions to every single one of your niche's problems. You're bridging the gap. You're not spending your own time and energy, so you're part of the 1%, and it's all leveraged. You charge more, work less, and live a life of ultimate leverage. So at this point, guys, you have two choices. You either spend the time and energy learning every single one of those solutions to increase your perceived value, or you spend time finding people who have already got this skill and leveraging that to increase your agency's perceived value. One takes 3 decades to learn, the other takes 3 weeks. Obviously, it doesn't take 3 decades, but I'm putting into perspective why you don't need to go out and find and learn these skills. Find someone that already has it and leverage it. Let me tell you about Serge Guattari, guys. You guys probably already know this guy if you are in the agency space. The guy's a GOAT. One of the greatest that I feel like has come into this space and really just changed the whole game, especially if you want to learn about leverage, learn about Serge. So to give you a quick overview, this guy signed his first client in 2020 and made around 4.3K. January 2021, he hits his first 10K a month selling appointment selling. So he's only bridging the small gap that agency owners face. May 2021, he scaled his agency to 30K a month, where he stated all the chaos started. 17 months later, this guy generated 600K a month. Make it make sense. How? This. He went from selling a commoditized skill, which is appointment setting, that got him to 30K a month. Then he realized that he needed to leverage the skill of other people to bridge the entire gap. He understood that the skill of appointment setting was only solving one problem, meaning that the perceived value of what he had to offer was relatively low. So scaling to 100K, let alone 600K, it just goes to show it doesn't matter if you're solving the number one problem that agency owners face, which was client acquisition for him, right? But that opened the door to a new set of problems that they experienced. In the words of the notorious B.I.G., more leads, more problems, guys. More leads, more problems. That's what people don't think about. He figured out the rest of the problems that his niche faced and leveraged skills to solve them. He went through that process that we just talked about. He talked about all the possible client failure scenarios and created mechanisms to solve them, and he leveraged every single one of those mechanisms. He went from selling one singular commoditized skill to leveraging his skills that solve all of his target niche's problems. It's crazy. Appointment setting, the singular commoditized skill, got him to 30K a month. Leveraging the skills of all the potential client failure scenarios got him to 600K a month. That is the difference. That is how you become a part of the 1%. So what do you think happened to his perceived value at that point? It skyrocketed because he realized that appointment setting wasn't the only problem that his target audience faced. He realized that they can't close appointments. They can't fulfill on their service. So instead of just focusing on the one commoditized skill, he realized that he needed to leverage the skill of other people. For example, a list of closers that he can build in the infrastructure of these agencies and essentially just increase not only his perceived value by bridging the entire gap, but their perceived value to their clients as well. So the rate at which you accumulate new skills is directly proportionate to the level of competition that you face in the current market. That is what we spoke about earlier. The more skills you accumulate by leveraging, the less competition that you guys will have. It's not possible to go from 30K a month to 600K a month learning the skills yourself. You have to leverage it from other people. That is how you become a part of the 1%. You literally go from offering your target audience booked appointments to being the all-in-one solution for all things. I don't care if you're in the niche. I'm trying to think. Dentists, chiropractors, roofing, med spas, home renovations. You become the all-in-one solution for anything that has to be done in regards to your niche. So now you know what mechanisms are needed to bridge the gap for your client. This is how you package your offer. I'm walking you guys through the steps on how to create this build and release offer, so there's no excuses as to why you're working harder, not charging at least 5K for your services, and scaling or adding at least 30K a month to your monthly recurring revenue. So the perfect delivery that you'll need is, first of all, to differentiate yourself from the 99. Use the skill needed to avoid failure table to identify how you guys are the all-in-one solution. You need to provide a definitive end date. You'll be able to charge 2 to 3x more if you sell your service with a defined end date, which is why we call it a program, an experience. All that sort of keywords is just fluff to essentially stand out from the rest of the 99% of agency owners that's saying retainer, etc. You need to price anchor the prospect to the prices that they would have to pay if they work with other agencies, consultants, or coaches, or hire internally before you mention your price. So let me show you exactly what that looks like, guys. This is what I mean about price anchoring. You want them to visualize the cost of how much it would be for them if they went elsewhere to solve all of these individual problems, because it positions you as the individual that is essentially bridging the entire gap. And imagine you're only charging 5, 6, 7K a month, but if they went elsewhere, it would charge them upwards of 20K a month. So you can say, look, John, failure scenario number one is, let's say you're not generating enough booked appointments from the leads that are generated. That's going to cost you $1,000 to $2,000 to get an ISA team that basically focuses on closing those guys for you. Then you'd be like, look, failure scenario number two is you don't have an efficient way of tracking potential clients in the pipeline. It's going to cost you 2.5K to have a go high level custom build from a go high level snapshot builder. And it takes around 2 to 3 weeks to get that done. But on the flip side, John, we have that already and included for you. Let's look at failure scenario number 3. You have a poor website, lacking conversions, and the click-through rate and booking rate organically is awful. To get a website developer is going to cost you 2 to 4K. Like, you can see how this sort of works in what it is that I'm talking about, guys. You want to price anchor. Think about all the areas that you're fixing, all the areas that you're leveraging skills to bridge the gap, and then let them see how much it would cost if they went elsewhere. Because then what that does is, like I said, it makes you seem as the all-in-one solution because they're getting a ridiculous deal because you're only charging 5K instead of it costing them 20, 25K. All right, so from that little interlude or whatever you want to call it, hopefully you guys understand what it is that I mean about price anchoring. Bonus stack. Most prospects will come in for one thing, but it will be crucial for you to unbundle and showcase each live variable as a separate mechanism. This will increase the perceived value of your offer. So you don't want to come in and say, oh, I'm going to be doing X, Y, and Z for you. You want to say, look, most agencies offer, and this is what I love about the sales tactics or whatever. You want to throw 99% of agencies underneath the bus. You want to say, look, most agencies will come in and offer you booked appointments and lead generation. But what we do is we do that. But on top of that, we actually have a mechanism in place where we can ensure that every lead that's generated turns into a booked appointment because we have X, Y, and Z in place. And then on the back end of that, so you want to add these different mechanisms and see how you can start piecing it together, and your perceived value just goes through the roof, guys. So moving on from that is scarcity. Clarify that there's a limited supply. There's only so much that you guys can manage because you haven't got that big of a bandwidth. The urgency aspect, time cap, make the offer only available until X date, whether that's 3 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now, and then you can reopen another program in the next 4 months, or whatever the case is. And last but not least is a guarantee. And this is actually what's quite unique about the 1%, guys. You provide a conditional guarantee. So for example, if after 90 days you haven't made them X amount and you've implemented every mechanism, we'll happily refund you. That's the key. They have to implement every mechanism, because look, if you're going to these guys and saying, look, we'll add 30K a month, 40K, 50K a month, it only works if they implement every single mechanism that you created. If they don't implement the mechanism and they don't make the money in however long your program lasts, then you're not going to refund them, because you're going to say to them, look, John, the reason why we can guarantee success is because we implement all of these mechanisms. You didn't record the sales VSL that I told you to record. So that's why you didn't see the 30K a month. Look, John, you didn't want to use our in-house VAs to close these deals. That is why you didn't make the 30K a month. So it's only a conditional guarantee, meaning if they implement all the mechanisms that you stated, then they'll be eligible for a refund. If not, you've done your part. They didn't. It's that simple, guys. All right, guys, so at this point, we've spoken about how you identify the skills that you guys need to leverage in order to bridge the gap for your clients, as well as that, how to actually package this new build and release offer. And finally, we're going to be talking about how to price it. So your price is dependent on the amount of problems that you are solving. This pricing structure will obviously change depending on the number of problems you decide to solve by accumulating leverage skills. But ultimately, as a bare minimum, at the end of this training, you should be doubling the amount that you're pricing. So for example, most guys offering lead gen can only charge upwards of 2K. If you're doing marketing and building out their internal infrastructure, you should be looking around the 4 to 5K per month mark, which is by minimum after this training is what you guys should be doing. But if you want to come on as like a growth consultant for your local lead gen agencies or businesses, should I say, that you guys are targeting, and doing in-house talent integration, done through resources, back-end, optimization, that's around 6 to 7K. But a growth partner, you're basically coming in, bridging that entire gap from the front end to the back end. That's when you're going to get into the 8, 9, 10 and upwards of 15K every single upfront payment for your clients, right? So the reason why you can go to these local businesses and charge extortionate amounts up front is because you're not just solving one problem, you're solving all of them, and you are that solution. Your agency's perceived value is through the roof because you are that entity that can take them from where they currently are to where they desire to be. So they either go to different businesses, contractors, or freelancers that would cost them tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars with no guarantee it will work, or they come to you, which is the price anchoring, which we spoke about. So in terms of the pricing, this is the formula that essentially you guys need to be using. And I'm going to be using some examples from an agency, let's say. So we charge 10%, or should I say you guys are going to be charging 10% of the potential of the infrastructure times the probability of experiencing the outcome. So let's say the agency's infrastructure potential, if they built it in for a local business, was 20K a month for 12 months. That's 240K a year in potential. The probability of experiencing that outcome, let's say, is 30%. That means the pricing formula is going to be the yearly revenue potential times the probability of outcome times 10%. And that equals your upfront fee for your build and release offer. So it's going to be the 240K because of the 20K a month times 12 times 0.3, which is the probability of experience the outcome, 30%, times 0.1, which is the 10%. So look, that is going to equal $7,200 upfront for your build and release offer. Now, obviously, if you think that your offer is going to be worth, let's say, 40K over the course of 12 months, every single month, then that changes drastically, and then you can charge more. You're charging more based on the probability that your build and release can deliver this said outcome in the next 12 months. And in terms of the performance fee, what people don't understand is it's not fair to just get paid one-time payment like a 7.2K payment. You're building out an infrastructure for a business. that means that hard work that it takes to even present that infrastructure needs to be rewarded, right? So you're going to be charging a 10% to 25% of profit rev share for the duration of your program. So if your program lasts 6 months, then you're going to be charging the 7.25K upfront cost, as well as 25% of rev share for the next 6 months, etc. And that way you're getting paid for the hard work of the build and release offer. So with the right offer, the lever and fulcrum, you get to charge more than anyone else in your industry using this pricing formula. So look, the dream outcome times the perceived likelihood of value divided by the time delay and the effort and sacrifice equals value, guys. And that is how you go from charging 1.5K a month and having a churn rate of like 2 months to charging 7.2K upfront and then getting paid on the back end for the duration of your program. The build and release offer is the single most thing that you guys need to be focusing on and implementing that directly into your business to increase the perceived value of your asset, which is your agency, so that you can be a part of the 1% of agency owners. All right, guys, so let's recap why this framework will take you from being a part of the 99 to being a part of the 1%ers. Because every increase in a new skill is a decrease in competition. Said differently, every increase in a leveraged accumulative skill is a decrease in competition. You are no longer providing the solution to one problem. You are now in a position to be the solution to all problems, which means that you have infinite pricing power like we spoke about earlier on. You do not have to spend years wasting time and energy learning skills because you'll be leveraging them. The work to result ratio has significantly diminished. Instead of working on a retainer basis, you build out their infrastructure in a couple of weeks and then it's on to the next, all while you collect a percentage at the end of the month until the program ends. What better way to do that? Why would you want to work on a retainer basis where your income isn't, guaranteed? They can drop you at any time. It doesn't matter how much money you make them, how many leads, booked appointments, they can literally get up and say, look, Shemar, I don't want to work with you anymore. But with this infrastructure, with this framework, it enables you to not only get paid up front, but to get residual income on the back end as well, guys. You actually scale a business with profits, meaning that you can leverage better quality of skills from talent. You are in abundance. You choose who you want to work with, and most importantly, you get to enjoy the fruits of your labor. So look, this is what 99% of the agency owners are currently doing. They're offering booked appointments, only charging 2K a month. Their initial situation, I don't care if it's at 5K a month, 10K a month, 15K a month, they have to routinely chase clients just to make ends meet. Or you can craft a blitz offer which gives you infinite leverage and no cap on what you can charge. At the start of this video, I said to you guys, the reason why you'll be adding at least 30K a month in recurring revenue is if you implement half of what I'm speaking about. If you guys remember at the start of this training, I said the only reason why you'll be adding at least 30K a month minimum in recurring revenue is because you would have only implemented half of what I'm going to be teaching in this training. Hopefully you guys can finally see what it is that I'm talking about. Imagine what would happen if you implemented everything that I'm saying here. That you identified all the solutions that you need skills to solve, and then you found a way to leverage those skills. But on top of that, you now package your offer as the all-in-one solution to your target audience. It would be impossible to not scale to 100K a month. It'd be impossible because no one else in your industry is doing that. That is what you guys need to be thinking about. The definition of intelligence is essentially the formula of growth. Growth equals the rate of learning plus the rate of change. But not only that, it's the quality of information you're taking in, the speed at which you're taking in that information, and the volume, the amount that you're taking in, plus the quality of change. So how many bad habits are you changing into good habits? The speed at which you do that and the volume, the amount of changes that you're actually making, is directly proportionate to the amount of money that you guys will make. The rate of learning and the rate of change is directly related to the amount of money that you guys will make. If you want to make 10K a month, you do small amounts of learning and small amounts of change. You want to make $5 million a month, you do high amounts of learning and high amounts of change. Someone who is smart acquires knowledge and skills faster and changes behaviors faster. It's that simple. If you want to see 30K, 50K, 80K, 100K a month added in monthly recurring revenue after this training, watch it over again. Implement these things, guys. Implement the build and release offer and see The amount of clients chasing you because you're the all-in-one solution for your target audience, the fact that you have infinite leverage. Now you're charging 7K, 10K, 15K a month up front. That gives you the ability to hire better talent, to take yourself out of the process. It's infinite upside. You guys can either continue competing with 99% of lead gen agency owners, running your agency into the ground by lowering your prices, or you can understand the skill of accumulating leverage skills in order to position yourself as a solution to all your niche's problems. So look, guys, you have the knowledge now, but the execution and implementation of this model is what will take you from where you're at and where you desire to be. If you're currently at the 5, 10, 15, 20K per month mark, great. Continue signing these 2K clients if you want to. This knowledge that you would have learned in this training means nothing if you haven't executed and implemented it. That is what's going to add at least 30K a month in recurring revenue. And I'm actually quite annoyed that I put 30K a month. Like, there's no way you guys should not be eating 50, 80, 100K a month after this training. It's impossible. It's actually impossible, guys. So now the power's in your hands, guys. You either just take this knowledge and don't execute it and currently stay apart the 99%, or you take this knowledge, execute on it, and start building the infrastructure to your build and release offer and be a part of the 1%. It's that simple. And the reason why I'm so passionate about this, guys, is because I don't want you guys to continually suffer running an agency. It should be the most enjoyable thing that you guys do. Relentlessly pursue these things, guys. Take it easy and welcome to the 1%ers.